In this video, we will examine carefully how the various financial ratios are calculated for Mr. and Mrs. James Tan. Please download the supplementary material so that you can refer to the various financial data. Certain terms used in this video are mainly applicable in Singapore. For example, CPF stands for Central Provident Fund. The CPF is a comprehensive social security savings plan in Singapore. Basic liquidity ratio for Mr. James Tan. Basic liquidity ratio is defined as liquid assets divided by monthly expenses. Liquid assets refer to assets that can be converted to cash instantly, such as money in savings account and fixed deposits. Monthly expenses will include all payment and spending in cash. Mr. James Tan has $5,000 in liquid assets which are from his savings account. His monthly expenses include $2,100 plus $500 on his monthly car loan. This brings his total monthly expenses to $2,600. Take note that his monthly expenses does not include his housing loan repayment, as this is paid through his CPF ordinary account. His liquidity ratio works out to be 1.92 months. Basic liquidity ratio for Mrs. James Tan. Mrs. James Tan has liquid assets of $28,000. This is made up of $20,000 from her savings account and $8,000 from her fixed deposit account. She spends $980 plus paying $100 on loan repayment for a TV installment purchase and $120 for her monthly renovation loan repayment. Her total monthly expense turns out to be $1,200. Her liquidity ratio works out to be 23.33 months. Savings ratio for Mr. James Tan. Savings ratio is defined as total savings divided by net cash inflow. Mr. James Tan saves $200 of cash every month. His gross salary is $3,500 per month. 20% is deducted from $3,500, which is his CPF contribution. His net cash inflow or take-home income is $2,800. His savings ratio works out to be 7.14%. Savings ratio for Mrs. James Tan. Mrs. James Tan saves $400 in cash every month. Her gross salary is $2,000. 20% is deducted from $2,000 for her CPF contribution. Her net cash inflow or take-home income is $1,600. Her savings ratio works out to be 25%. Non-mortgage debt service ratio for Mr. James Tan. Non-mortgage debt service ratio is defined as the total monthly non-mortgage loan repayment divided by the total monthly take-home income, which is gross income minus CPF contributions. Mr. James Tan pays $500 for his car loan. This makes up his monthly non-mortgage loan repayment. His gross salary is $3,500. This total is multiplied by 0.8 due to the 20% CPF contribution. His monthly take-home income is $2,800. His non-mortgage debt service ratio works out to be 17.86%. Non-mortgage debt service ratio for Mrs. James Tan. Mrs. James Tan has a monthly TV installment of $100 plus a monthly renovation loan repayment of $120. Total non-mortgage debt is $220 every month. Her gross salary is $2,000. This amount is multiplied by 0.8 due to the 20% CPF contribution. Her monthly take-home income is $1,600. Overall, her non-mortgage debt service ratio stands at 13.75%. Mortgage servicing ratio for Mr. James Tan. Mortgage servicing ratio is defined as the monthly mortgage loan repayment divided by gross income. Mr. James Tan has a housing loan of $800. This makes up his monthly mortgage loan repayment. His gross salary is $3,500. This amount includes his employee's CPF contribution. His mortgage servicing ratio is 22.86%. Mortgage servicing ratio for Mrs. James Tan. Mrs. James Tan has no housing loan. Thus, her monthly mortgage loan repayment is zero. Her gross salary is $2,000. Without mortgage repayment, her mortgage servicing ratio is therefore 0%. Net worth of Mr. James Tan. Net worth is defined as total assets minus total liabilities. Mr. James Tan has the following assets: $5,000 in his CPF ordinary account, $20,000 in special account, $40,000 in his Medisave account, $5,000 in his savings account. His car is currently valued at $30,000 and his house is valued at $450,000. Mr. James Tan has an outstanding car loan of $20,000 and an outstanding housing loan of $150,000. Subtracting total liabilities from total assets, his net worth stands at $380,000. Net worth of Mrs. James Tan. Mrs. James Tan has the following asset: $20,000 in her CPF ordinary account, $20,000 in her special account, $20,000 in her Medisave account, $20,000 in her savings account, $8,000 in fixed deposit, and $10,000 in unit trust funds. Mrs. James Tan has an outstanding TV loan of $3,500 and an outstanding renovation loan of $3,000. Taking away total liabilities from total assets, her net worth is $91,500.